Hello, my dear learners. Today, I have an inspiring story for you. This story is not only for your English listening practice, but it is also a reminder that great lessons sometimes come from the most unexpected people. The story is called The Vegetable Seller Taught Me English. It is a story about dreams, hard work, and the surprising places where learning begins. There was a young man named Ethan. He was 20 years old and lived in a small town with his parents and his younger sister Lily. Ethan had one dream. He wanted to speak English fluently. He believed that English could change his future. He wanted a better job, more confidence, and a better life for his family. Every evening, he watched English videos on his old phone. He repeated simple sentences, but after a few minutes, he became frustrated. "I can understand a little," he said to himself, "but I cannot speak." One afternoon, Ethan saw a large advertisement. "Speak fluent English in 90 days." His eyes filled with hope. The next morning, he visited the English Academy. The building looked modern and beautiful. Students walked inside with books in their hands. Everyone looked confident. Ethan walked to the reception desk. "Good morning," the receptionist said with a smile. "How can I help you?" "I wanted to join your English course," Ethan replied. She handed him a brochure. Ethan looked at the course fee. His smile slowly disappeared. The fee was more than his father earned in an entire month. He quietly returned the brochure. "Thank you," he said politely. Then he walked out of the building. As he walked home, he kept asking himself one question. Did money decide who learned English? That evening, his father noticed that Ethan looked upset. "What happened, son?" he asked. Ethan told him everything. His father listened carefully and then smiled. "My son," he said, "never think that money is the only teacher. A person who wants to learn always finds a way." Ethan wanted to believe him, but he had no idea where to begin. The next morning, his mother gave him a shopping bag. "Ethan," she said, "please buy some vegetables from the market." He nodded and walked toward the busy marketplace. The market was full of people. Some sold fruits, some sold flowers, others sold fresh vegetables. As Ethan walked through the market, one vegetable stall caught his attention. It was small, but it looked very neat. Fresh tomatoes, carrots, onions, potatoes, spinach, and cabbages were arranged perfectly. An old man stood behind the stall. His face carried a warm smile. But something else surprised Ethan. Every basket had a small handwritten card. One side showed the local language, the other side showed English. Tomato, potato, onion, carrot, cabbage, spinach. Ethan looked at the cards for several seconds. The old man noticed his curiosity. He smiled and asked, "Young man, are you reading my vegetables or buying them?" Ethan laughed. "I am reading them." The old man laughed too. "That is good," he replied. "Very few people read vegetables." Ethan smiled and picked up a carrot. "I wanted to learn English," he admitted, "but I could not afford an English course." The old man remained silent for a moment. Then he picked up a carrot. "What is this?" he asked. "Carrot," Ethan answered. The old man nodded. "And yesterday did you know this word?" Ethan thought for a moment. "No, but today you learnt it without a classroom," the old man said. Ethan looked surprised. The old man continued, "English is not hiding inside expensive books, it is standing in front of you every single day." Those words stayed in Ethan's mind. Before leaving, he bought the vegetables. The old man handed him the bag with a smile. "Come back tomorrow. I will teach you 5 new English words." Ethan looked confused. "You will teach me?" The old man smiled. "Why not? I sold vegetables for 40 years, but every day I also learned something new. Learning never depended on money, it depended on curiosity." As Ethan walked home, he kept thinking about the old man's words. For the first time, he felt that maybe, just maybe, his English journey did not begin inside a classroom. It began at a simple vegetable stall. The next morning, Ethan woke up earlier than usual. For the first time in many weeks, he felt excited about learning English. After breakfast, he picked up a small notebook and a pen. Then he walked straight to the vegetable market. The old vegetable seller was already arranging fresh vegetables on his stall. When he saw Ethan, he smiled warmly. "I knew you would come back," he said. Ethan smiled. "I wanted to learn those 5 words." The old man nodded. "Good, but first tell me your name." "My name is Ethan." "I am Mr. Jacob," the old man replied. "Now, today's lesson begins." He picked up a tomato. "What is this?" "A tomato," Ethan answered confidently. "Very good." Then Mr. Jacob picked up a cucumber. "And this?" Ethan stayed silent. "I don't know." Mr. Jacob smiled. "It is a cucumber." Ethan quickly wrote the word in his notebook. Next came eggplant, cauliflower, pumpkin, and garlic. Within a few minutes, Ethan learned 6 new words. Mr. Jacob looked at him and asked, "Now tell me, where will you use these words?" Ethan thought for a moment. "I don't know." The old man laughed softly. "Then you will forget them tomorrow." He pointed toward the vegetables. "Learning words is easy. Using them is difficult." He picked up a cucumber and said, "This cucumber is fresh." Then he handed the cucumber to Ethan. "Now you make a sentence." Ethan took a deep breath. "This cucumber is green." Mr. Jacob smiled proudly. "Excellent! 1 word became 1 sentence." Then he pointed to the tomatoes. "The tomatoes looked fresh." Ethan repeated the sentence slowly. After almost 30 minutes, Ethan made more than 20 simple sentences. He made mistakes. Sometimes he forgot the grammar, sometimes he pronounced the words incorrectly. But Mr. Jacob never laughed. Instead, he corrected every mistake patiently. Before Ethan left, Mr. Jacob gave him a small challenge. "Tomorrow, don't just learn new words. Look for English wherever you go." Ethan nodded. "I will." On his way home, he looked around more carefully than ever before. The bus stop had words like entrance, exit, and waiting area. The pharmacy displayed open 24 hours. A nearby cafe showed fresh coffee and hot sandwiches. Even the grocery store had English names on every product. Ethan opened his notebook again. He wrote every new word carefully. That evening, his younger sister Lily noticed the notebook. "What are you writing every day?" she asked. Ethan smiled. "I'm collecting English." Lily laughed. "Can anyone collect English?" "Yes," Ethan replied, "1 word at a time." After dinner, Ethan read every word aloud. His father listened quietly. "You learned all these today?" "Yes." "From where?" Ethan smiled. "From a vegetable seller and from the streets." His father looked surprised. Then he smiled with pride. "I told you yesterday, a person who wants to learn always finds a teacher." The next morning, Ethan returned to the market again. But this time, Mr. Jacob was talking to a foreign customer. The customer spoke slowly in English. To Ethan's surprise, Mr. Jacob answered him confidently. The conversation lasted only a few minutes, but Ethan watched every second with great attention. When the customer left, Ethan asked, "How did you learn to speak English?" Mr. Jacob looked at the busy market and smiled. "I never went to an English school," he said. "I learned 1 word from 1 customer, 1 sentence from another, and 1 lesson every single day." Ethan stood there without saying a word. At that moment, he realized something important. His greatest English teacher was not a professor. It was an ordinary vegetable seller who never stopped learning. And deep inside his heart, he felt that this was only the beginning of a journey that would change his life forever.
The next morning, Ethan reached the market before Mr. Jacob opened his stall. He wanted to learn more. When Mr. Jacob arrived, he smiled and said, "You are early today." Ethan nodded. "I wanted to practice before the customers arrived." Mr. Jacob looked pleased. "Very good. Remember, success always visited the people who prepared before others. He handed Ethan a small basket of vegetables. Today, you will help me. Ethan looked surprised. Me? I don't know how to sell vegetables. Mr. Jacob laughed. I am not teaching you to sell vegetables. I'm teaching you to speak. The market slowly became busy. Customers started arriving from every direction. An elderly woman walked to the stall. Mr. Jacob picked up a tomato and looked at Ethan. What is this? It is a tomato, Ethan answered. Good. Now tell the customer. Ethan felt nervous. He smiled at the woman and said, These tomatoes are fresh. The woman smiled kindly. They certainly are, she replied. Ethan felt a little more confident. A few minutes later, another customer came. Mr. Jacob whispered, Your turn again. Ethan pointed at the potatoes. These potatoes are clean and fresh. The customer thanked him and bought 2 kilos. After the customer left, Ethan looked at Mr. Jacob with excitement. I spoke English. Mr. Jacob smiled. Yes, you did, and nothing bad happened. They both laughed. For the next few days, Ethan visited the market every morning. He learned the English names of fruits, vegetables, colors, numbers, and simple greetings. More importantly, he practiced speaking without fear. Whenever he made a mistake, Mr. Jacob corrected him with patience. One afternoon, Ethan asked, Sir, how did you become so confident? Mr. Jacob became quiet for a moment. Then he answered, When I was young, I worked near a railway station. Many tourists visited the market. I knew almost no English, but every day I learned one new word from them. I wrote every word in a small notebook. After many years, that notebook became my dictionary. He smiled and continued, I wasn't the smartest man, I was simply the most consistent. Those words stayed in Ethan's mind. That evening, he went home and made a decision. He placed small pieces of paper on different objects in his house: door, window, mirror, chair, table, bottle, fan. Every time he walked past an object, he read its English name aloud. His sister Lily watched him with curiosity. What are you doing? She asked. Ethan smiled. I am turning our house into an English classroom. Lily laughed. Then I want to join your class. From that day, they practiced together every evening. Lily asked simple questions. Ethan answered them in English. Sometimes they laughed at funny mistakes. Sometimes they repeated the same sentence 5 or 6 times. But every day they improved a little. One Sunday morning, Mr. Jacob gave Ethan another challenge. Tomorrow, go to the supermarket, he said, but don't buy anything immediately. Ethan looked confused. What should I do? Read every English word you can find. Read the product names, the signs, and the instructions. Then come back and tell me what you learned. The next day, Ethan accepted the challenge. He spent almost an hour inside the supermarket. He read words like rice, sugar, salt, flour, milk, biscuits, chocolate, cooking oil, and laundry detergent. His notebook quickly filled with new words. As he walked home, he suddenly smiled. Just a few weeks earlier, he believed English existed only in expensive classrooms. Now he found lessons in every street, every shop, every packet, and every conversation. For the first time in his life, learning English no longer felt difficult. It felt like an exciting adventure. But neither Ethan nor Mr. Jacob knew that a challenge was coming, one that would test Ethan's confidence more than ever before. The next morning, Ethan walked to the market with a big smile. He carried his notebook as usual, but Mr. Jacob was not at his vegetable stall. The stall was empty. Ethan looked around with concern. A nearby fruit seller noticed him and said, Mr. Jacob went to the hospital early this morning. He wasn't feeling well. Ethan felt worried. After buying a small basket of fruit, he went to visit Mr. Jacob. The old man smiled when he saw Ethan. You came, he said softly. Of course, I replied. I wanted to see how you were. Mr. Jacob thanked him and said, I will be fine in a few days, but I need one favor. Anything, Ethan answered. I want you to take care of my vegetable stall until I return. Ethan's eyes grew wide. I have never sold vegetables before. Mr. Jacob smiled. You said the same thing about speaking English. Those words gave Ethan confidence. The next morning, Ethan opened the stall. He arranged the vegetables neatly, just as Mr. Jacob always did. He placed every English label beside the vegetables: tomato, potato, carrot, onion, spinach. Soon, customers began arriving. Some people bought vegetables. Some children stopped and looked at the English labels. One little boy asked, "Why are these names written in English?" Ethan smiled. "So everyone can learn a new word while buying vegetables." The boy repeated, "Carrot, tomato, potato." His mother smiled and thanked Ethan. Every customer learned at least one new English word before leaving. Within a few days, people from nearby streets started visiting the stall. Some came to buy vegetables, others came to learn simple English. Ethan realized that learning could happen anywhere. One afternoon, a schoolteacher visited the market. She noticed the English labels and watched Ethan help a young girl pronounce the word cauliflower. The teacher smiled and asked, "Who started this wonderful idea?" Ethan pointed toward the hospital, an old vegetable seller named Mr. Jacob. The teacher said, "He taught much more than English. He taught confidence." A week later, Mr. Jacob returned to the market. He was surprised to see a crowd around his stall. Children were reading the labels, parents were smiling, customers were practicing English together. Mr. Jacob looked at Ethan with pride. "You did much more than sell vegetables," he said. "You continued the lesson." A few months later, the local newspaper published a story about the small vegetable stall where people learned English for free. Soon, schools invited Ethan to speak to students. Many people asked him, "Which English academy changed your life?" Ethan smiled every time he heard that question. "My teacher never worked in an academy," he replied. "He sold vegetables in the market." The audience always became silent. Then Ethan continued, "I believed that English lived inside expensive classrooms, but my teacher showed me that English lived on signboards, food packets, markets, buses, mobile phones, books, and everyday conversations. If you open your eyes, every day becomes a lesson. If you open your ears, every conversation becomes practice. And if you never stop learning, the whole world becomes your classroom." Years passed. Ethan became a confident English speaker. He found a good job and helped his family. But every Sunday morning, he still visited Mr. Jacob's vegetable stall. Sometimes they talked in English. Sometimes they laughed about Ethan's first pronunciation mistakes. And every time someone asked Ethan how he learned English, he gave the same answer: "I learned from a man who sold vegetables, but never stopped learning." Moral of the story? You do not always need expensive courses to begin learning. Sometimes the best teacher is the person you least expect. Knowledge is everywhere, but only curious people notice it. Never stop observing, never stop practicing, and never believe that your dreams depend only on money, because the world is full of lessons for those who are willing to learn.